United States re-elected Donald Trump to the White House again for a second term that'll begin in office, will then last for the next 4 years through January of 2029, close to the end of this decade, by which point he will be 82 years old. And during those 4 years, Trump's powers and influence as America's president will shift the course of world history and American foreign policy in ways that were similar to his first term as president. Right now, before he's even retaken office, there is an absolutely enormous amount of speculation about what his return to the White House could ultimately end up meaning. And anybody who tries to tell you exactly what will happen has no idea what they're talking about, including myself. Trump's foreign policy during his first term was defined by impulsiveness and shifts in unexpected directions, and his second term will likely be more of the same. Therefore, this is all extremely speculative, so please take everything that I'm going to say in this video with a huge grain of salt. But with that, I'm going to attempt and explain what I think Trump's return to the White House could end up meaning for American foreign policy, with a particular focus on NATO. For the past several years, as the war between Ukraine and Russia has dragged on, Trump has often been highly critical of the large amount of financial assistance that the United States has provided to Ukraine in order to survive. At a campaign rally in Georgia back in September, Trump labeled Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, as the greatest salesman on the earth for his ability to convince the United States to send his country so much money and assistance in the wake of the Russian invasion. According to the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, the United States has so far to date provided nearly $91 billion worth of combined military, economic, and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine since the Russian invasion began in early 2022, with U.S. military aid representing nearly 2/3 of that total amount at roughly $60 billion. Now, that number for the military aid to Ukraine is what particularly seems to anger Trump the most, because it's about half of the total foreign military aid that Ukraine has so far received from everywhere abroad. The European Union, by contrast, has only provided the Ukrainians with about $45 billion worth of military aid since the invasion began, for a war that's taking place directly at their own doorstep. Though in terms of overall aid, when factoring in economic and humanitarian assistance, the EU has provided much more to the Ukrainians overall than the Americans have, at a total of about $133 billion in total. Nonetheless, Trump has long argued in public during his speeches that the US is shouldering too much of the financial burden in continuing to support Ukraine during its war, and that Europe should take on an even greater share of the financial support than it has already. And with the idea of continuing to send more American aid getting less and less popular within the Republican Party all the time, that will now largely control the whole US government for the next 2 years, there is plenty of room to believe that a second Trump administration will likely significantly reduce American aid to Ukraine, if not even cut it down to zero altogether.
The question: what happens if Trump follows through and tries to claim Canada for the United States? What if Trump uses force to take over Canada? Let's start with what Trump has been saying. It all started on December 18th, 2024. Writing on Truth Social, Trump made some interesting statements about America's relationship with Canada. "No one can answer why we subsidize Canada to the tune of over $100 million a year," Trump posted to the social media platform. "Makes no sense. Many Canadians want Canada to become the 51st state. They would save massively on taxes and military protection. I think it's a great idea. 51st state. So what?" You might think things off the cuff, and this is no indication that he's intending to use American forces to take over Canada. And it